Hello, welcome to the third edition to Tuesdays at 2. I am running a little bit late, having some issues with my camera. So, anywho's, glad to be here. I get super excited about talking about these things because this is exactly the very thing that is going to change your life, and it's what's creating your life over and over and over again. So, with that, I want to just get right into it. And again, just to introduce myself, I'm Melissa Gale, and I run the Intention Academy here, and I help people overcome trauma and stopping the repeated behaviors that we do over and over and over again that we most disdain about ourselves, and why we can't get ourselves to stop this behavior. Why do we continue to live the same lives over and over and over again? And I want to get into that with you right now. So just to have a recap of what we've talked about so far. So we've talked about the reticular activating system. Hey, Mayuri. Hey, Tasnuva. Hi, Emily. All of my clients showing up. And they can tell you, right, going through this program and being able to clear out that what has been programmed in the unconscious mind. So again, 96% of everything that we do is from the unconscious mind, meaning all of your education, all of your willpower, all of the goal setting that you do, all of your affirmations is 4% of why you do what you do. Everything else that you do, from breathing to self-sabotage, is done from this unconscious mind and what is programmed in this unconscious mind. And so what I specialize in is clearing out the reticular activating system. That's just a long word, or the RAS, for the filing system of how we store our memories, and it also is the lens for which we then create our life. So going back to this, hey Alyssa, to this reticular activating system, what makes it up? The reticular activating system, when we are taking on information, like we said in the last one, we think that we take on this information with our eyes. When we take it on with our eyes, we think about it, and then we send it to the unconscious mind to think about later, and that's not what happens. What happens is we take this information on with our eyes. It bypasses our thinking brain, our critical factor. It goes straight to the unconscious mind, and it gets filtered through all of our environmental programming, all of our religious programming, all of our parental programming, everything that's ever happened in our life, all of our memories, all of our emotions, all of our belief systems. And then we delete, generalize, and distort that image to whatever's programmed in the RAS, whether those belief systems are that you're not good enough, whether that you're unlovable, whether that it's, men will always leave. Whatever it is that's programmed here is what you will then distort that picture. You will move that distorted picture to the frontal lobe to think about, and we'll call it the truth. That's the truth. That's why they say, everybody has their own version of the truth. And why? It's this thing. It's this unconscious mind. It's how you can sit here and explain yourself till you're blue in the face to somebody else, but because they're taking that information and processing it through their reticular activating system, through their programming, and deleting, generalizing, and distorting everything that you're saying, and then sending that to their thinking brain to think about. And you're like, I don't know how much more clear I can be. And guess what? You're doing it too. We're doing it to our children. We're doing it at work. This is what keeps us from standing up in our biggest power. And all of the gifts that we have is this brain here saying that we can't, or saying that we're not worthy to, or deleting out the very information that we would need to be able to carry out such a task, right? So I want to talk about today how that actually happens. So when you look at the unconscious mind, when we were talking about it before, right? So the main things, the three things of the reticular activating system are the influences. These are all the things that we come in contact with on a daily basis. Most of this happening from ages 0 to 7. So we said on the previous one, go back and watch it if you haven't, that 95% of our belief systems are fully formed by the time that we hit 8, so by 7. And if you aren't doing work to challenge these belief systems, if you're not doing work to heal that which created the belief system, then which which is housed in your body, then you are going to continue to look at life through that lens. So what is a belief system? A belief system, again, it's the influence that we have. It's the emotion that was created, a heavy emotion, while interacting with someone or something. And in that moment, we created something about ourselves or the world. And that's what we will then recreate. That then gets programmed into the reticular activating system. So we were talking about how we store emotions and last week, and the way that we store emotions are in gestalts. And gestalts are where the term emotional baggage comes from. We don't want someone with a lot of emotional baggage. Why? Because they're like always at the end of their rope. They're like always at the end of right at the edge of an anxiety attack. Okay? And old me, right? And I know a lot of y'all relate with that. And what my hope for you is that as you start to learn how your brain works, you can give yourself grace and understand that this is just how the brain works. When you can equip yourself with how your brain works, you can then use it properly so that you can properly emote feelings. And as life comes up, you have the emotional availability to do so. So just to recap, so we had our little bag from last week. This is our emotional bag. Let's say it's for anger, right? Can you see that? Yes. And so this emotional bag is anger, and it starts filling up. When this explodes over, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to either revert back to the age you were the first time you experienced the emotion. So you're going to act like the brat. You're going to act like the 2-year-old. You're going to experience this emotion from that emotional availability. We gave the example of road rage before of how that works, right? Or, so you're going to act this age, or you're going to get sick. Or both. Or both. This is where autoimmune disorder comes in. Almost every single person that I support, them healing themselves through this work. I'm not going to do anything for you, but I will provide a process that will help you heal yourself, right? To clear out these things. Almost all of them have autoimmune disorders. What is autoimmune disorder? It's the body attacking itself. Why? Because trauma is stored in the body. Your emotions are stored in the body. If we do not attack this from the body, mind, and spirit, you're not going to have long-lasting healing. I don't care what you do, and I don't care how good you feel whenever at the end of your session of whatever it is that you're doing, right? And comment below if that's happened to you. Because I can tell you, a lot of the work that I did prior to trying to actually getting some healing, I felt good at the end, right? I had done a lot of different things that gave me this awareness, and awareness made me gave me this sense of control, but it didn't actually do the healing work. And so ultimately what would happen are these gestalts would fill back up. So here in emotions, what we're doing is we should have the emotional availability to regulate these emotions, and they should go up and down as life happens, because we know how to process emotions. We know that our emotions are here for us. They're here to support us. And as we know that, we can start communicating with them, and they can easily go away on their own because they've served their purpose. The problem is that we've been taught and we've been programmed to stuff that down because it's absolutely too scary. Because our parents didn't know how to process emotions, and their parents didn't have to process emotions because they were just trying to live. Through technology and the things that have gone on in the world, what have we created for people? Time. And we have a lot of time to sit and process emotions, where most of the time people were just constantly acting from the reticular activating system, from this fight or flight mode, which needed to happen because they were in fight or flight. We are not. And yet we don't know how to not live there. And we're never going to be able to get out of this cycle of chaos if we don't start dealing with what has been programmed here. So that's just the background, again, on emotions. First, we have to clear the influences, right? The things that created the emotion, the things you interacted with in your life that created the deep emotion to where you decided something about yourself or the world. And again, so I've told many people have heard my story, but because of I was raped and sex trafficked on and off from 2 to 25. And I always say that's not what ruined my life. What ruined my life was who I decided I was because of rape. And that I wrecked my own life with for decades. I decided that day I was unlovable. I decided that men wasn't safe. I decided the world wasn't safe. I exchanged what love and sex was, which created all types of different problems for me in my relationships as I grew up and as I went through relationship after relationship until I could finally come to grips and terms without judgment, without shame of who I am and why I am. And I did that by understanding. So that understanding is crucial. That's why I come in here and teach for free to help you understand your brain. But ultimately, you're going to have to go in there and heal it and do the work. That part I can't do for you. But I can support you in it. I can help you get to a place where you can give yourself that type of permission, because it's not easy. And it's not easy. But this work will pay you dividends for the rest of your life. So going back to, I'm going to kind of do a diagram up here of what the unconscious mind looks like and how it is. So again, we say we have all of the influences. So you've got mom, you've got dad, you've got boyfriend, husband, spouse, partner, say partner, okay? And you've got trauma of whatever that was, okay? Is that going to, okay. So these are all the influences that make up the unconscious mind. Over here, we have emotions. So we have anger, sadness, fear, we have guilt, and a whole slew of other emotions that can be down here. Can y'all see that? I hope y'all can. Okay, so this is what makes up the emotions. And under here is how we get these belief systems, right? So again, influences, and then we have all of our emotions. So making this a picture of the unconscious mind, we said, let's say at 2 o'clock, every single one of these are a gestalt. Here's your anger gestalt that fills up. Your sadness gestalt that will fill up. Your fear gestalt that's going to fill up slowly over time, right? Some of us, not so much. Some of our gestalts were full by the time we were 7, right? And that's okay. But I want to show you how this happens. So mom at 2, she doesn't give you candy, and you get angry at 2 years old, and you get angry. And then at 3, dad makes you angry, right? And mom makes you fearful. And then mom makes you guilty. Mom makes you sad. Dad does the same thing, and it continues to go. These things are continually filling up age by age. As you go through here, this is ultimately filling up. And when it does, it's going to spill out to sickness or the age you were the first time you experienced it, the 2-year-old. So these are your gestalts that are going to fill up. Now, what you can see is as they start to link up, as every single one of these fill up through all of your ages. And it starts to look like a grid or a gate almost. And so here you've got anger, anger, anger. You've got sadness. You got fear. Your partner made you fearful. Trauma made you fearful. Dad made you feel guilty. Partner made you feel guilty. And trauma made you feel guilty. And so you've got all of this being your unconscious mind, and it makes it like this. This is what we're looking out of every single day. And it's through these things. And so as these come together, what is held in here are the belief systems. When we have an influence with mom that makes us angry, and then dad comes in and makes us angry, we solidify something about our world, like the world isn't safe. When, dad makes us scared for whatever reason, whenever we're young, and then we have a partner who leaves us, and then that makes us fearful and anxious, and then somebody comes in and hurts us, and we decide then that all men leave. Or I'm unlovable. Or I'm not worthy. Or I can't make money. I'll always be broke. Life is hard. There's no point. And guys, this is what we're seeing our life through. Right here. We're looking. So again, a piece of information comes through our eyes, and this is what it's getting filtered through. And anything that is not this, that doesn't agree with saying that you're unlovable, saying that, there's no point, that you're not worthy, that I'm in leave, that the world is not safe, if something comes up looking like safe, we delete, generalize, and distort that information. Most of the time, if it's something like that, we just delete it altogether, meaning that it never even gets to the frontal lobe, to the thinking brain, to even say that it's happened. That's why we're literally living figments of our imagination every single day, because we are constantly reliving this over and over and over again. So, what do? How do you get out of this? It comes from going and healing the parts of you that created this. Right? And we do that through clearings. And so we have multiple clearings. Obviously, there's influence clearings, there's emotion clearings, and then there's belief clearings. And we can't do any of the emotional work or the belief work, right, until these influences are done. And for some of us, we had a lot. And that's okay. And there is still a point to do it, because you do matter. And the problem is, it doesn't matter how many times I say it. It doesn't matter how many times your kids say it. It doesn't matter how many times your parents say it or your spouse says it. It's never going to matter, and it's never going to land, because you will always delete, generalize, or distort that information to match that, nope, I am unlovable. And then you'll go start a fight or create some sort of chaos in your life that will then go and create the very scenario that you said was happening. And then you'll be like, see, told you. And you sit over there in your vindication and your victimhood. But what? Who wins there? Nobody wins there. I mean, you do win. You were right. You created it again. But when is enough enough? When is enough? I mean, at some point you're going to have to do whatever you have to do. And I tell a lot of my clients to borrow my faith and my trust in you, because I know that the biggest thing of this, living this over and over again, what it creates the most of is a lack of self-trust within yourself. So you sit there completely confused. You sit there not knowing how to make a decision. You sit there and paralyzed. And these things are not going to change until you start creating the environment for yourself to heal. And it starts, again, with healing these parts of yourself. As you do that, you will create the emotional availability. And at first, for just more things to come up. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not easy. And healing is not linear. And it is not a place to get to. There is no place to be other than right here and right now, and your willingness to do the work. That's it. So welcome to the rest of your life if you've shown up to that part. Because that's all you're going to do. I'm my biggest client. I continue in this work. I continue to honor all the different parts of myself that have shown up, have been willing to face every single part of myself, so that I can completely transform the relationships with my parents, my children, my siblings, my friends. And your entire life can change too, but it's not going to happen until you change the relationship with yourself. My whole mission is to end trauma on a global scale, one family at a time, and it starts with healing ourselves. We can't do anything else from that place. Excuse me. But we have to start with healing ourselves. And I want to leave with just asking you, what is that going to take for you? I want you to really look yourself in the eyes, like get in front of a mirror. I can't tell you what you've been through. I can tell you what I saw whenever I looked at myself in the mirror. And when I said, when is enough enough? And when I came into this program, I can tell you, whenever I found these tools for myself, I had no money. And I was down to my last bit of everything. going on my dream, like trying to, like live my best life and do all of the things. But I was out of money and I, again, created this chaos. And when was it going to be enough? In an instant, I paid $10,000 to be able to heal myself. Why would I do that? Because it was finally less painful than living this life over and over again. And so you've got two options. You can continue to go down to the bottom until you have nothing, right? Just because you're really, really good at, coming back up from the bottom doesn't mean you have to keep putting yourself there. Newsflash. Talking to myself. Always talking to myself, guys. Because I'm in here, I'm in this with you. What I want to do is walk side by side with you with other brave men and women who are coming in and healing themselves, facing themselves, looking at themselves, being brave, finding themselves, loving themselves, learning how to finally take care of themselves, finally not shaming themselves. It can happen, and it can happen for you too. If you're one of my clients, please comment below. What does that look like for you? What have you been able to get from clearing the reticular activating system? What does that actually mean when you're talking about in the real world? I want to hear from you. It warms my heart always. And if y'all have any questions or anything, please put them in the comments. I will come back in here and I will answer anything that you have. And we've got more coming up next week, Tuesday at 2. Look forward to it.